we begin, this video was inspired by drawing with waffles videos, which are going to be showing up on the side. I thought it was a really cool idea to have a character design idea through audience answers. And the poll I posted on my blog, which is still open because I want it to be open, and there will eventually be a different character design again, assuming that there's a end result again of the dominant answers. I will post another one, but this is the first one. So, I have my pad here of all the answers, so I'm going to open that up. I finally have a poll up. I don't know if it's affecting the lighting at all. If so, I'm going to go turn on the light because it might not be. Let's see. I can always open the curtain, I'm not sure. The light could be good, but so I have all these answers, 22 to be exact, and I'm going to use these to create a character. And also, I forgot to mention this because I'm not scripted at all. Unlike my acting videos where I'm absolutely scripted, and that's very fun to be scripted. But improvising is fun too, except I'm not in character, so it's totally different. Anyway, I'm going to use these to create a character, and this was originally supposed to be for my blog anniversary. I decided instead of posting a story, which I probably am going to post the story anyway, I'm going to post this video, which I'm recording right now. So, we're going to be drawing a mystical creature to begin with. So, let me open up this to the page. So first it's a mystical creature. That was decided. It's annoying when pencils break. I might actually have to get a new one. Yeah, I actually do need to get a new one. Be right back. The character's female. They're tall. The clothing style is vintage. Not my favorite time period really, but I can go with this. Of course, it might change in the second character since I'm still keeping the survey open. The character is morally gray, which is awesome. Good choice. I would also like to draw an evil character eventually too. They're extrovert. And they're good at taking care of themselves. Oh, instead of, I don't know why I wrote down yes. Good at taking care of themselves. They have long hair. Just gotta draw some hair there. This is not. I'm probably also gonna look up some vintage clothes which are not 1950s. I'm not going to do 1950s, I'll do 1940s or something, just because. They have curly hair, so I would change the Rapunzel hair I just drew. Oh, I I just remembered. I am actually taking this poll and I don't have exact results for all the answers, I just realized, and I just was going through this. But this is my point. I was just trying to see what would happen if I kind of did it without knowing all the answers and then doing it another time knowing all the answers that from the audience. This time there's no exact answer for skilled with weapons. It's all divided up into thirds and it's kind of not clear. So I'm going to close my eyes and pick a random one. They're still learning how to use them. This will of course be different when I do it the second time. So. They are skilled with magic. There's actually no in between for this one. It's like it's either skilled with magic or really not skilled with magic. And I also kind of didn't specify whether I meant skilled with magic as in they have magic already, or skilled with magic as in they not skilled with magic as in they don't have it at all, or whether they're just terrible at it and just turning people into stuff randomly, which could be taken either way. Assuming when I do the individual responses, I could easily do that. But for others, I could just say they don't have magic at all. They're never going to learn how to use it because they just don't have it. My throat is kind of sore at the moment, but they are sorcerer or sorceress. Not sure, spell sorcerer. That's how you say it. Sorcerer. I'm gonna erase that. Because sorceress, correction. Sorceress. Interest, or if they're a god, which they're not, but they could easily just be someone who's looking for immortality, depending on what happens. That'd be really, really interesting. They could just be like, I want to be immortal, because I do. And I'm going to become a god, because I can, kind of. But there are 3 different results for this one that are majority results. There's either theater and performing arts, stealing and thievery, or art and drawing, etc. I'm wondering whether I should combine the answers and make it into kind of like they're all these things, or whether they're just one and they're just really just like I'm an actor but I also steal, or I'm a thief and I like art so I steal art but also make my own art, which is kind of already a thing an art thief would do. Earth is their element, so I'm probably going to use that in a certain way later. So I think I'm going to close my eyes and pick one. Oh, that's actually not one. I just closed my eyes and picked one that was not a majority. I'm going to try again. That's again majority. Oh, this is so hard to choose. Okay, now I know what people feel like when they're taking the survey. I don't know how to choose. So I'm going to come back to that. They're gentle. It happened. It makes sense that she's gentle in some ways, given that she's Earth Elemental. However, I know that there are some Earth Elementals, if I can call Artemis one, since she's the goddess of nature, who are very tough. So, depends on what part of nature you're portraying, I assume. An 8 for how mischievous this character is, which is almost close to 10, so very mischievous. They're a 3. 8 again, so very strong. So I actually should probably make a thing for what, you know, the character has in terms of, you know, I'm just lost my point. I should probably make a thing for how strong, how muscular the 3 is, because I actually did not do that. 1 is no muscles at all, so not muscular. 2 is a tad bit. I assume 3 is just you're very worked out, and 4 would be, I might spell muscles wrong. Let me correct that. I just realized mine, I'm a writer, yet I have trouble spelling off the top of my head. That somewhat, and then 3 is kind of more. It looks like you're very worked out, but giant muscles for 5 and lesser giant for 4. I should have probably done that before. How will I keep this in mind? Oh, and I forgot. Cold climate. And then I'm going to just choose one at random. Stealing and tiefling. Because I've not done that. I have a whole bunch of elves. A lot of elves. Enough that it's kind of like I had to turn one elf I made into a fairy later because I had so many elves. I mean, elves and fairies are very different. But I want to do a tiefling. Tiefling. Yeah, tiefling. I'm pronouncing it correctly. I want to do a tiefling. So, I'm going to look at some pictures of tieflings and start my design. And then I'm going to add the other elements on later. So, there's a lot. I just realized there's a lot going on. So I'm looking at some pictures of tieflings through the D&D Wiki. D&D Wiki. Wiki. I just occurred again. Wikipedia. Except it's for... Okay, how is it pronounced? Okay, finally there are some pictures. I remember that Ginny D I have not actually seen Critical Role, but I remember Ginny D did Jester, who is a tiefling from Critical Role, and I thought it'd be cool. And I also need to get a human reference because I don't have that. I wish I could get a human and tiefling reference up at the same time. Because I just realized this is harder than I thought, so... This is also my first time, so I'll have several attempts at this. I'm not saying I'm going to restart, but... So I began drawing, and while I was drawing, I actually ended up talking about certain projects I'm working on at the moment. So, since the footage had to be sped up and that would have messed around with the audio, I am going to talk about one of them. So, I have a project that is a monologue that I'm going to film soon. That is from Sherlock, where I'm playing Sherlock in it. And right at the moment, I started kind of taking it apart and doing certain things with it. And I was getting more into the little details, like what the character likes, what he likes, like everything. And the certain words and stuff like that. So, though this got cut out of the original recording because it would make it 2 hours long, I thought I would at least mention it, since I am going to be filming it very soon, I believe. Another thing that happened in this really long 2-hour video recording, which now is very short and less than 2 hours long, is that I ended up talking about my original character, Arenda, who came from a Dungeons & Dragons roleplay. And in the original Dungeons & Dragons roleplay, I remember that there was this interesting thing about her trying to rescue Ichabod Crane, since it was a Land of Sleepy Hollow Dungeons & Dragons roleplay, and the way she did that was very different than how she would have done it now. And the way she ended up doing that was she ended up marrying Ichabod, which would be very out of character for her now. But to say the least, I thought I would bring this up, given that the character I'm making is a tiefling, which is from Dungeons & Dragons. Also need to say that Arenda ended up having children with Ichabod in that universe, and the children would not be the most, normal children. Also, Arenda and Ichabod would probably make them be incredibly weird. I just think that Ichabod and Arenda would be the worst parents to have, for reasons other than their character. Oh wait, no, for reasons relating to the character. When talking about Arenda and Ichabod's children, which are in an alternate dimension, not actually in their story, or ever will be in their story, I remember that I actually in the video talked about how Ichabod and Arenda would have arguments like, should the child be able to go out into the woods to get milk from the neighbors? And stuff like that. And I'm going to do it now, but I can imagine that Arenda would exactly be okay with it, but Ichabod would just be like, take this with you, take this can of salt with you and go into the woods and make sure not to run into a Headless Horseman, and just scare the child out. Just scare the child a lot. A little bit too much for their own good. And Arenda, being a warrior, would also kind of scare them in a different way, so there's a reason why they don't have children, and why they're not married, and why they will never be married, ever. Another project I talked about in the recording was, in fact, Pandora's Box, which is an animation short film movie I'm trying to work on, and the reason why I came up was mostly because of character design. I'm still working on designing certain gods and goddesses based on their Greek versions, but also making them my own. And also I don't know what Pandora looks like yet, so there's a reason why this came up in the middle of my video, so I just thought I'd mention it now. I'm kind of in the middle of working on it. I'm not done by any means, and I don't have a complete, coherent storyboard or script to go off, so it's not ready yet. So I thought I would put flowers in her hair. I thought that would be the earth element thing. However, that didn't really end up working, and it gave a really weird thing that I didn't end up ending up staying with. I could have done a flower in the hair, like a 1950s flower, but that's not really what I wanted to do when I first started drawing it, and plus I liked the end result better in terms of the way the flowers are included with the earth elements. tried originally to do 1940s clothes. That did not end up working, but you'll see the clothing style I tried. Not to say that it can't work, it just didn't work for this character. It didn't work for her personality and stuff. I'm sure it could work for a different character, but it was very not distinctive for this character, so yeah, that didn't end up working. But I do think that this was neat, at least to see the project, you know, growing more and more. And, you know, the fact that I can fail and also fail at one point but then succeed later is also really neat. I had a bit of trouble with was the tail. I was trying to make it fit into the character, but it really didn't end up fitting in at all. And I did end up doing a flower crown, but it really made it look like the character was a hippie, and I did not mean to do that. So the flower crown got taken away later, but yeah, that happened. So I also thought that I had trouble finding good references for tieflings on the D&D Wikipedia, and the reason that being was the internet kept cutting out constantly. So there was a point when I stopped filming the video at one point during the 2-hour filming length I did, where I just decided to look at pictures of Ginny D as Jester. And it actually helped me get a better view of what the character looked like, because I was like, do tieflings have pointy ears, or are they only normal human ears and have horns, or is it both, or what is it? I know that not all tieflings look the same, however, I thought I'd use Jester at least as a reference, just so I can have an idea of what she looks like, because I was very confused when doing it. This time I actually made the mistake of making her have dirty clothes, which was because I thought she was a thief living on the streets. I didn't think she was going to be a grifter or a con artist. Instead, she ended up being one, and that was one error I made that I forgot and then realized halfway through. So the jacket worked. It ended up working in the end. I just confused it with, I just didn't say the correct answer that the audience decided, so I had to redo it again. So I actually ended up using a 1950s jacket as what I wanted the character to look like in terms of stuff. I wanted to do 1940s originally, but 1950s just ended up working with this character. I don't know why. Though I don't personally like 1950s clothes, I would not wear them outside of perhaps if I had to for a character, but And most of the characters I'm playing at the moment don't wear 1950s clothes. I don't think Sherlock would wear 1950s clothes. He might wear a suit, but but I don't think 1950s clothes are his style. Maybe Anne. I don't think Anne of Green Gables would necessarily wear them. Maybe she would. I don't know. But anyway, this ended up working for the character, and it was interesting because the character just ended up being a little bit different than what I usually do. One thing was to say about this character was that her similarity to Annabelle was actually very close. As in, she does disguise herself as a man, actually. Apollo Cyrus, I decided later. But it's for a different reason than when Annabelle does it. Annabelle has a detective alter ego who is a man, who she disguises herself as. So, that also I thought was worth mentioning because I mentioned that in the original video. Another thing that I found out about this character is that she stole her magic from a sorcerer. And, which I think was interesting, that she ended up conning him into giving her magic, which I think was a really cool plot element to figure out while drawing. Around this time, I had a really clear idea of what the character actually looked like, and it was getting easier and easier to draw her. The only thing I had trouble putting in, which never exactly got put in, was her tail. All tieflings have tails, and I couldn't figure out how to make it actually be in the picture, which was a little bit frustrating. I still don't know, but I'm working on it. It probably will show up in later sketches of her. After all, she's going to appear on my blog now, so yeah. One thing that actually did not end up staying in her character design, which you will see there, is her earrings on her horns. It's actually, I thought it was neat because I didn't think tieflings had pointed ears, but actually they do have pointed ears, so I kind of messed around with it. So she does wear earrings, just not on her horns. So that's a design thing that just is not staying in the later design. Near the end, I felt like I understood what the character looked like better, and that it would be so much easier to draw her. However, the only thing I didn't really end up including was the fact that she had muscles. That really didn't end up being included as much. It is there, it's really hidden underneath her jacket somehow. And I might end up drawing one where she wears a sleeveless dress or something, or I don't know, something that would be obvious so you'd be able to see someone's muscles underneath in a way so that you could see her muscles and show that is part of the character. However, it would remove the living in a cold climate part, so that's another reason why it was hard to do. Around this point, I decided that I knew the character pretty well, and that I would be able to draw her. So I had to divide this video up into parts, so click here to watch part 2.